Hello everyone. In this video, I just want to comment on some sad things, innocent death. So Bosnia got its first victim of the migrant crisis. And migrant crisis, it's an official term. It's crisis of young men, mostly former ISIS associates who fled from the crime scene when Assad was deleting them from the face of the earth, and they covered in as migrants, as refugees, and many people believe that there are refugees out there in the world. I was a refugee once, and it was only children, women, and old people. So this man was killed, uh, about my age. Three of them were attacked and one died, and he was about to close his place. And I don't know the exact details, but I can imagine like some conflict happened, and this man and his other um, friends or something. He was from Morocco, a really slimy looking type. I guess they started a fight and attacked these three Bosnians, and people protested the day after, and people have been protesting against them in Bosnia. So I'm glad that there is some responsiveness to it. Like, people don't accept it. People are like not wishing to take things in their own hand, and they really want to make it clear what they wish to see the how do you say, officials to do to keep them more in the camps which are meant for the uh, young mass male invasion from somewhere, everywhere, from countries that have no war, because those men joined ISIS at the time, and as I said, fled the crime scene when Assad was popping them off the face of the earth. So and this is sad, and I looked up, and there are some stories and incidents, of course, before this event. They have been killing one another and attacking one another. There are videos of them having open knife fights in parks and places, and even in Serbia there is a problem with this. So, and these men all want to come to the European Union, of course. uh, and I'm just comparing this to how Sweden handled and is still handling this. Uh, these murders and rapes and such in Sweden are very common. People have in some way accepted it because nobody has done anything against it. Uh, I mean, if it happened so many times and we still didn't kind of gather 500 men to take things in our own hands, then we all sort of accepted it in some way. I mean, it doesn't matter how smart a video somebody made, or how smart somebody wrote about the problem, or how somebody is lamenting the laws which make things impossible. It's all nonsense. Sweden has the one of the best technologies in the world for surveillance and tracking, and it has a good secret service and such. So, and good lawyers, and I mean, how do you say, not lawyers, but people who work with the law. So they could have bent something to make quick changes. But the problem is, in the mass population, people have this image of reality which is wrong, and that image is not as naive in Bosnia as it is in Sweden. So Bosnia, what I'm glad is that they have a responsiveness to the situation, not just after this happened, but before. And it's a small country. It's not a wealthy country, so there are many other problems, and I'm not sure if the European Union is kind of helping them to pay for the camps, um, to make them stay there so they don't go over to Croatia and enter the European Union, and then they are off. Germany, Sweden, and Holland the next. Um but anyway, so people are asking now for harder measures against them to keep them in the place where they should be, in the camps. So I think we will see more restrictions, hopefully in Bosnia and Serbia and all those countries. Um, they should have been working together with this problem from day one. And ever since Hungary and Orban put up the fence, they should have just made their own fence on their borders, or increase the security there. So yeah, that innocent killing of life is always something that has bothered me. And even here in Sweden, it has happened so many times. And I'm just observing like how different the reaction is. Like in Sweden, the police chief, I don't know, he said nothing, but down there they say like this is an attack on our country, on our sovereignty, because a law-abiding citizen was killed for nothing. Um, yeah, and there are cucks everywhere. So even Bosnia has their fair share of, but it's a tiny clique. But they still have these kind of naive people, but not in the same extent as England, Germany, Sweden, and such. Even though the tide is changing everywhere, and one positive thing with all of this scandemic and the border crisis is that this problem is kind of limited. And with that said, I was hoping more would happen to kind of fix the problems now when you don't have the influx as you had before. And another article I read was Australians killing innocent people in Afghanistan, in something called a ritual, a blooding ritual, where the soldier is made to do his first killing of innocent people. Uh, and that just shows you that they were doing dark rituals. I mean, some dark, sinister, satanic stuff, uh, unworthy stuff. And that's also what's crazy about this world, because Australians shouldn't be in Afghanistan. Afghanistan people shouldn't be that much in the rest of the world. I'm not against people traveling and resettling, but there's something very wrong. And all of this started 19 years ago. 19 years ago and 2 months, um, of from the outside job done in the USA, and the pre-planned motivation to destroy all of these countries. And we can still see the effects of this, and we will still live with these foreign troops being all over the world, fighting proxy wars, ruining nations, making the people there, the local people there, uh, hateful, and maybe that they want vengeance in the future. I mean, imagine being occupied by somebody for such a long time, and also the influx of what's happened in Europe. So yeah, and but many countries in Europe did participate in the destruction of Libya. So practicing your soldiers, your air force, trying out new weapons. Um, none is so stupid that they couldn't calculate the results, especially people who are looking over all of these situations, who are planning it, who plan the invasions and stuff. Um, it's not a surprise. So what we're seeing today is kind of pre-planned, and I think that what we can do about this, like the first step, is at least talk about it. Don't be hysterical. Just talk about it. Share, and especially focus on people who might not think like we do, and be calm and just present the facts. I've seen this. I've seen this happening before, and how people kind of reject, and then you kind of stop at the point, and then when you meet them later on, they have realized some new ideas and perceptions about the whole situation. And this goes for many other things. So that's one thing. The other thing is, of course, engage in some organization, political activity, and such. And the third one is, I mean, imagine if somebody close to you were a victim, um, would you trust the powers to be, or I mean, how would you react? In the end, men have to be men, you know. Where there are men, there is a defense. So I'm not saying take things in your own hands, but there is this natural law in the end when all else fails. And just because we live in a society of computers and comfort and such doesn't mean that a time for that won't happen and won't arrive in the future. And I'm not trying to monger anything here, but ask yourself, what if that happened to your brother, to your sister, to your wife, to your lover, or something like that? Anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be involved with the topic now, but um, and depending on the context. So yeah, um, crazy world, all because of what happened 19 years and 2 months ago, mostly. And regarding all of these border crises and such, as I said in the last video about the electronic voting system, which is to come in many places, this is all just part of making us more controllable. We have all of these former ISIS fighters roaming around freely while we are being in control. So we have, I mean, I don't have, but we in this continent have lockdowns and restrictions while there are former military men roaming around from country to country. Uh, so the goal is to kind of not to control them, but to control us. We couldn't implement the Chinese social score system. China has it already, and they are having parties in Wuhan. It's all over for them. You don't hear about um, coughing and sneezing from China anymore. They have beach parties and concerts, but we don't. And we can't implement all of what they have. So we need to kind of prepare the people. We need to scare them for 1 or 2 years with something and then kind of sneak it in, make things mandatory, connect it to the smartphone, to the application. So you can have every individual's kind of access to every individual and what they look, what they subscribe to, what they listen to, how they vote, what they read, and all of it. So, I mean, what else is it? Because in a real Black Death, people, young, old, are dying. People have all of this crazy stuff going on. And now when old people pass away who are happen to be sick, and if they happen to be some person of importance or some um, a public figure, the media really pushes them, and it is because of this thing. Even though there are many things before and the person was sick and old, and that happens when you get old. Eventually life ends, hopefully when you're old and not when you're young. So anyway, just some thoughts. You know the world is a crazy place, and I have my two children here playing, and I'm not gonna make a joke about how I want to see the world for my children. I'm not gonna accept what's here, because what's here at the moment is not good enough. So we all have to work on it, and we all have to stay vigilant, healthy, calm, and just keep doing what we do. Never back down. Never bend the knee, and slowly and steady and firmly. And yeah, also a good thing which is also to kind of try to connect with people in away from the keyboard in real life, and also connect with your community, because um, sometimes when you know things you think that people aren't aware or not interested. And it doesn't have to be about these things either. It can be about practical things. It can have to do, I don't know, with growing food, with safety in your neighborhood. It can do with anything. Just interact with people and sit down with people, have a cup of tea or coffee, and share some ideas, be open, because the first barrier for all of this is when people don't interact, when people don't meet, like I meet you, or we sit down and I share my thoughts. I'm not afraid what you're gonna think. We just talk. I share my thoughts, you share your thoughts. um, because if we don't do that and somebody else tells us that you and me can't get along because we might have some differences about something, that's when we get separated. So just see potentiality in all decent people around you. That's what I try to do, and do not get discouraged, or like try to make myself important or special. I mean, yeah. And it's winter time, it's lockdown time, it's hard for that, but people are still willing, and yeah, life is good. This turned very dark in this video. Maybe in the future I'll get some lightning, and it's a big lamp. It's called the sun, somewhere where it's sunny. So I don't need a lamp. I can just have the sun most of the day, most of the year shining, with some beautiful rain from time to time. But more about that next year and the year after that. Cure moje, hoće moli. Okay, see you. Ciao.